Hey guys, we just landed here in Seattle, Washington, our beautiful North Point, Washington facility. First of all, we just want to say thanks for joining us on this journey. Anything you want to say real quick, Big John?
Appreciate the support, and we got a lot of great episodes coming your way, so be sure to check them out, show us some love on all the different media platforms, YouTube, podcasts, all that good stuff.
Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes.
Absolutely.
Next few episodes are going to be showcasing our amazing North Point, Washington staff, as well as some of the alumni that have graduated from this facility, as well as North Point, Idaho, that live in the Washington State area.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good time,
guys. Welcome to No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. As always,
I want to stab you in the neck.
I'm joined by my co-host, Big John Meldrum.
I hate you so much.
A.K.A. Chocolate Bear, A.K.A. Black Paul Bunyan.
Well, like, where are all these AKAs coming from? I'm just going to, like...
Also known as
this is
Chocolate
like,
Bear, also
this is
known
like,
as...
This is like Game of Thrones, like Breaker of Chains and Free of Slaves.
I'm just going to keep adding them on.
Just keep adding them on. So, like, I have, like, this list of names
A.K.A.
afterwards.
Chocolate Bear. A.K.A. Black Paul Bunyan. A.K.A. Pastor of Disaster.
Ooh. I like that one.
We are still up here in Seattle, Washington with our North Point staff. We have somebody that's very near and dear to my heart.
Mine too.
A little extra for me.
I mean...
How often do you talk to Tucker?
It doesn't matter.
Get the fuck
I've known Tucker longer than you have.
Technically,
I was at the same amount of time.
Yeah, but I worked more than you did with Tucker.
Me and Tucker were pretty close.
I mean...
Me and Tucker hung out while I was a
Tucker.
tech.
I'm not saying it.
Remember who your boss is.
Yeah, he's my boss now.
Go ahead, give me the wink. You got the wink.
I missed it.
Okay.
Oh, damn.
It's not on camera. It doesn't count.
Shoot.
Anyway,
Could have
Tucker
just
is
been my
here.
lazy eye.
Tucker is the
getting that,
Washington
right? My lazy
alumni
eye?
coordinator.
Okay.
Tucker is the me of Washington. He's been doing a great job, and we're really stoked with the alumni program. He's also taking all of us to a haunted house tonight, and we're not happy with him about it.
I'm already really anxious about this. Like, my anxiety kicked, like, about 10 minutes ago. I was like...
Yeah. Are you gonna get scared? Do you get scared easily?
I laugh. I more laugh.
Good, I'm gonna hide behind you and
Yeah.
nestle my face, like, right here in your neck.
Everybody else is actually looking forward to nestling their neck on your neck. They're like, John's going to be there. We can hide behind him. So.
That's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to
It's gonna
be.
be so funny.
No.
I'm really hoping that you're gonna freak out so much that it will like draw attention away from me. So you're good. Anyway, we're gonna get to this quote right now, guys. Oh, almost forgot again. Don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. It helps us share these miracles of recovery. There might be somebody that has Tucker's story that needs to hear his story, so make sure it's getting around to as many people as possible. All right, guys, the quote Tucker wanted to bring the Tucker quote wanted to bring.
The Tucker quote
Is that it's the one I guarantee you've heard. It takes a village to raise a child. African proverb. So why that quote?
Because... why that quote? I don't necessarily... When I use the quote, I say it takes a village. Because for me, in my personal journey through addiction, when I decided that like enough was enough and I wanted to go into treatment, my friends like sprung into action, and they called up my mom and sister, got me a plane ticket to back to Oregon, stored my stuff. When I got back to Oregon, I had my childhood friends driving me here and there and to and fro and getting ID so I could get into detox, and then driving me to treatment, and then picking me up from treatment, and then it has actually evolved from that into it takes a village to stay sober. And and ironically, I've been using this quote for a while, but ironically now I get to be part of that community and get to, I don't want to say I build the community, but I help build the community
Totally.
here at North Point. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Love it. Yeah, no, I think about my first couple years in 12 Steps, right? That was my village. I never really felt like I fit in anywhere in a sports team or a club or anything like that. And for me, it was 12 Steps. That's where I found my village. I found my people that understood me, that got it, that helped raise me. Kind of that transition from a boy to a man type of thing. So I'm with you on that. I totally agree. John? It takes a village. African proverb. Making me read it twice every time.
No, it's just like, that camaraderie that we see within meetings and things like that. I think that, you can't just do this by yourself. You got to have people that have done it before.
I agree.
Period.
Perfect.
Boom. African proverb. Wakanda forever.
Jesus. All right, Tucker. I'm going to skip past that, not try to engage in that one.
Or you did. You're laughing.
What?
Yeah. Don't want to have to edit too much out.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
No, so I'm actually really excited to hear your story. I know John's heard it before, and I know bits and pieces, right, just from working with you. And but I'm really excited to actually hear some details and kind of really get the whole picture of what your addiction was like. And I think that gives a lot more appreciation for the person that you end up knowing when they're in recovery, right? So I'm really excited to have a deeper appreciation.
Cool.
So start with childhood. What was your childhood like? Relationship with your parents, relationship with your siblings? It actually sounded like you had a pretty good childhood when we chatted about the episode prior.
Yeah, I did. I grew up in a small farming logging community called Banks, Oregon.
I've heard of Banks.
There, when I went to school there were 600 people.
In the town or high school?
In the whole town.
Wow.
Yeah, I had 50 in my graduating class. So we had a white picket fence. We had a basketball hoop. My sister was a cheerleader. I was, the scholar athlete. Dad was a hardworking timber faller. Mother, she worked full time as well. She was a manager, office manager at a chiropractic office. And I lived in a cul-de-sac, and we had friends, and we went out and played all the time. We built forts. It was an awesome childhood.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, and like my dad, he coached all of the sports, the wrestling, the soccer for 2 years until I could play football, and then baseball, football, all that stuff. He coached everything. Didn't miss a game. Same with mother, and and it was loving that I remember. I don't have a great memory of childhood for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's all right.
So, but it was happy.
What position did you play?
So,
Just curious.
In high school, I played quarterback, and I was horrible.
I would have picked a fullback. I'm just saying.
I couldn't see over the line. I was not a Doug Flutie or Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel was terrible.
Yeah, well, in college he was good, but yeah, no, we had my senior year. We didn't have enough players on the team to actually form an 11-on-11 scrimmage. We had to do like half line. So it was like I was like the epitome of the big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I played safety on defense.
I don't feel like you can move as well as you once did.
My torn adductor will speak differently to that.
Okay. All right, so tell me about your relationship with like your friends, your siblings, and it sounds like your relationship, your good childhood kind of extended all the way through high school.
Not quite all the way through high school.
Okay.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Relationship with friends and stuff. I had like a core group of friends. We were like the cul-de-sac kids.
Yep.
And there were, I don't know, I think we were probably 5 or 6, 7 or 8. We usually had enough for like a 3-on-3 or 4-on-4, whatever we were playing. We lived in walking distance to the high school football field, so we'd play football out there, we'd play baseball out there. We could like hit it into the stands for a home run and stuff. Anyway, but then I got in high school, I did have like a core group of friends, but I also floated around like we had having, I don't know how many people in the high school, 200 people in the high school. We didn't have a whole lot of cliques because everybody knew everybody and grew up with everybody and was related to everybody. So I'd float around and just hang out with people. And it was one of those, didn't really felt like I fit in anywhere. And like the feeling alone in a crowded room, stuff like that. So
comfortable in your own, not comfortable in your own skin.
Exactly. Yeah. And,
was there any specific reason to that?
I don't. And it's weird. Like thinking back, because of like my confidence issues and being self-conscious and not feeling like I fit in, and I had some very loving, doting parents, and I was positively reinforced and all that stuff. But then again, like my insides were screaming, "You're not good enough. You're this, you're that. You don't fit in." And then I'm like, so yeah, I have no idea where that came from. Okay. And but when I was younger, I would go through these what my mom would call funks. For as far back as I can remember, and I would, every couple months, 2, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, a year, 6 months, or whatever it was, I would just get super depressed, and like when holidays would roll around, I wouldn't want any presents. I would the whole, I wish I hadn't been born. Things would be so much easier if I wasn't around. You'd have more money for my sister or whatever, and yeah, I have no idea where that came from, but yeah, and then obviously that trend continued, throughout the rest of my life.
So as you moved through high school, what was your first drink like? What was your first use like? Were there any kind of, I guess, points of interest in high school? Because I know your addiction kind of really started happening after high school, right?
Yeah, it was probably about halfway through my senior year was when I started drinking a bunch and smoking pot and doing hallucinogens and ephedra and no-dos and stuff like that. Back in the day, you could actually get ephedra, which is, speed. Yeah, it was awesome. But no, it's not. No, it's not awesome.
I'm sure you had a lot of fun.
Yeah. But no, my first drink was, I think it was the summer between my freshman and sophomore year. And I might have had like a sip of a beer, like a family reunion or something. But the first time I drank, my parents were out of town. They were in Reno, and my sister's going to throw a party. So she gets a 4-pack of Bartles and James.
Ooh. The sugary stuff.
Strawberry daiquiri wine coolers.
Good God.
And
memories right there.
Yeah, Bartles and James. If you're old enough to know Bartles and James, you do not.
No, I have no idea.
Boone's Farm, maybe? No? Okay. Yeah.
I got you, bro.
Yeah, you did.
Pure sugar with 4% alcohol.
Yeah. Awesome. And so she was like, "Yeah, you could have one," and I drank all of them. And and then she got another one, and she got a 5th of vodka, and I think I drank most of the rest of her wine coolers, and I ended up drinking almost her whole 5th of vodka.
Look, you're doing an alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, and so I found
once again the first drink just going hard on the paint.
Yeah, and
hard in the paint.
I found this out later. I was sitting in the couch, and one of my sister's friends, and like I said, small town, we've known each other forever. Like when I was in kindergarten, I knew the seniors in high school. So everybody knows everybody. And so one of my sister's buddies makes me a screwdriver, and so I'm drinking on it, and then I set it down. And then I'm socializing, and then I grab it, and I drink on it, and I set it down. And then one of the times I pick it back up, I'm like, holy, this is super strong. So what he was doing is every time I set it down, he'd fill it back up.
With just vodka.
With just vodka, yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so here's little itty bitty, 12-year-old Tucker, who's, I was little. I was always the littlest guy, and the guy that got me super drunk, he's trying to help me, and he's wasted too, and he's like trying to carry me outside, and I'm puking everywhere, and I just remember like him like throwing me over his shoulder, and then walking a few steps, and then falling down and puking, and so yeah, it was awesome. I got wasted, and the very next day I went to the Washington County Fair, and rode some rides, and I wasn't too horribly sick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And so all great consequences, all great things.
All great things.
Great reinforcements right there.
Yes. And I didn't pick up until my senior year. That was good because I was a super goody.
Yeah.
I was, like I said, I was good in scholastics, good in sports. I was a good kid.
Yeah.
And I obeyed my parents, obeyed, I was super rambunctious, and I had a buttload of energy, but I was able to rein that in when I needed to. And then so smoking pot, I think it was sophomore year, all of my friends smoked weed. Everybody smoked weed. And during lunch, they'd go out and smoke weed. And I'm like, I want to smoke some weed. So I asked my buddy, and we went, smoked some weed, and I got high, and it was awesome. And I just remember walking into the corridor and all of these lights and everything. It was just so cool. And the only person that really noticed was one of the lunch ladies. She just like looks at me, and she's like, "You're high." And I'm like, no, I'm not high. So, and she was probably stoned too. I don't know. But yeah. And then the next day, that morning, one of my buddies calls me up. He's like, dude, you smoked pot for the first time, and it wasn't with me. He's like, come over before school. I was like, cool. So I walked over to his house and smoked, and I think I just same thing. It was awesome, and then I didn't pick up again until my senior year. Yeah.
Yes. So how did the addiction start to progress? Because it sounds like that was when it started. Let me rephrase. How did your habitual use start progressing in that senior year? Was there something that triggered it? Did it just start happening? And then how did it?
Yeah. So it was my first case of the. Can I use the?
100%. Yeah, say fuck as much as you want.
Okay. My first case of the fuckets. I was always like, super, like I said, super goody. I didn't want my friends to smoke pot. Getting wasted and stuff was obviously okay because, drugs are bad, okay, but, alcohol, everybody drinks. Yeah, after, I think it was my wrestling season, my senior year, I was just like, I am done being a goody. I'm done caring about anything, and I'm just gonna enjoy life, and I'm gonna cut loose. And I started smoking pot. I started drinking on the weekends. I started doing like my first hits of acid were on a week-long field trip for our advanced biology class. I remember playing ping pong with my science teacher, high on acid. And then first mushroom experience was actually at Wild Waves for a senior skip day. And then I did acid mushroom a bunch more.
Yeah.
And so by the time I graduated high school, it was on for the most part.
So just so we save Alex's ears, that mic is very sensitive.
You just keep hitting the table.
Yeah, you don't want
And
to.
like, that's going to be in the thing later. You just hear like, like through all the springs. And
So you're good. I know you talk with your hands. Just do it up your lap.
Okay.
That's why I sit back, so I don't like.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. What did you just finish saying?
Wild waves.
He was taking
Senior
acid,
sip day.
mushrooms
Kept
at senior
kept
sip,
taking senior
kept taking
acid
senior
and
sip,
mushrooms.
then-
Okay.
You're gonna have to do a lot of editing.
And then after my senior year, it was on, is what I said.
That's what you said.
Yeah, after my senior year, it was
Okay.
on.
Ready? Take.
So, after your senior year, how did it progress? Right. So, how did the chronic habitual use, the start of an addiction? What did that look like? Kind of just take us through that, and then maybe just touch on a couple bottoms that you had, and then the bottom.
Yeah, so weed, I mean, this is so tough because this is like 20 years.
Exactly. I know it's hard.
We're much older than you.
Like
Cooper.
I'm like an hour. All right. But we'll do it. So after I graduated high school, it was smoking marijuana every day. Getting drinking alcohol pretty much every day, and then every day. And then I found methamphetamines, or crank, which is what it was called back in the
What
day.
year did you graduate high school?
95.
Oh, damn, you're way older than me too.
Yes.
That was a year after I was born.
Yeah, old man winter over here.
Yeah, God.
Yeah, it's
He
crank.
doesn't look it.
No,
It blows my
I
mind
graduated
every
in
time.
05, so he's 10 years older than me.
Yeah, it's all that clean living.
Oh, that clean living.
No, there's no reason you should look as young as you do.
No, there's not.
Okay, so
Just because you said crank, and I'm like, well, the crank is a little bit outdated. So like that's a 90s term right there.
Yeah, crank. Anyway,
so found crank,
found crank.
and that again, I'm sure that was another off to the races moment.
Yeah. Another off to the races moment. Yeah, you don't.
How did you feel when you started taking crank?
Awesome.
Just unstoppable.
It was unstoppable. The amount of energy, and like well, another thing too that it did for me is, with my anxiety, and my depression, like it would just make me feel awesome, and that's another running theme in my career is, whether it was cocaine, whether it was crack, whether it was methamphetamines, whether it was opiates, whatever. I could be out in the world, unless I've been up for 5 days. I could be out in the world and interact with people, and I wouldn't be self-conscious. Again, if I,
Have some confidence.
Yeah, and I didn't have those, feelings of inadequacy. I was like, pretty much every substance I am on, I love you even more than I already do, and you guys know how much I love people to begin with. So, yeah. So yeah, yeah, it was awesome. And
So it made you be the person you wanted to be.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so
when did consequences start happening?
When to start affecting your life like negatively?
So I actually probably the first in a lifetime of bad decisions was not going to college the following fall. I was supposed to go to college. I was supposed to play sports. I was supposed to do all that
Get the good
stuff.
grades, yeah.
Exactly. And
Meet the girl.
yeah, and I did not do that. And so I'm trying to remember the actual timeline. So I didn't go in fall, but I decided to go in the winter. So I went to the winter term. And, since I was going back to school, I'd kind of dialed it back a little bit. So I got to school, Western Oregon University in Monmouth, Oregon. It's a dry town. So it's a dry campus. It wasn't very dry.
Yeah.
Because you could go, I think it was Talent, Oregon was right next to it. Anyway, so within, I think it was the first full week and into that weekend, I had the campus police over at my dorm.
Jesus.
Searching for drugs and
Found them.
paraphernalia. No, there wasn't any drugs, but there was plenty of paraphernalia. And it was funny, and this is typical Tucker. I was like, yes, So I just took them around my room and I just like gave them everything that I had. I had like this 4-foot bong. I had a bunch of pipes, and the one thing, and they're like, we have to search it anyway. And I'm like, I understand. So they searched everything, and they found like my little razor blade kit, and they asked me what that was all about, and I was like, art projects. So
art projects.
They're like, yeah, okay, cool.
Paper mache, cutting up
paper mache. So yeah, art projects. And I did a lot of art projects in college.
Sure you did.
Yes, I did. And so I nothing really ended up happening with that.
So just for those of you that don't know or aren't familiar with a lot of drug use, razor blades were for making lines of cocaine and meth.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, and
Go
Adderall
ahead.
and Ritalin
Yep.
and, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, anything you can put up your nose.
Uh-huh.
So that's what the razor blade's for, folks.
We're an educational program.
I think I might have been put on probation. Maybe I wasn't on probation. The guy that I met with, he was the, I guess, dean of students or whatever. He's like, this is just a dumb kid made a mistake.
Yeah.
He's no harm to anybody. So, I met the people that did the drugs and the alcohol immediately.
Yeah.
And then I started, doing, the methamphetamines again and drinking every night and staying up for days. And I think maybe for the first month I went to school.
Yeah.
And then I quit going to school, and all of my roommates moved out of my dorm room, and so it was just me. I don't know why they moved out.
Can't get any sleep. He's up for 4 days straight.
Yeah, I was never there. But yeah, and then so if I wasn't drunk or high, I was holed up in my dorm room, depressed and anxious, and couldn't get out of bed until somebody's like, hey, let's go party. I'm like, cool. So needless to say, I dropped out. And luckily I was able to skirt the consequences of bad grades because I dropped all my courses before
For the deadline.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was coherent enough for that.
So like leading up to your first treatment, like what was it that put you into your first treatment?
First treatment center. So I was living in Dallas, Texas. So yeah, fast forward like 20 years.
So like lots of lows, lots of
lows, DUIs, lots of geographical changes. So I would do this a lot. It'd be like 3 years in some place, and then I would hit a low, move, be there for like 3 years, and every time I moved, like I would kind of, as soon as I moved. Well, no, I can't really say that. I was going to say my use tapered down for a little bit, then it would taper back up. And no, that's not true. But lots of geographical changes. I said 2 DUIs, relationships, breaking up with girlfriends and whatnot, and leading up to my first treatment center, a couple years prior, I had I'd taken opiates, pain pills, because I was a garbage addict. I did anything and everything that you had. I did it until it was gone. I read the list of the substances that I used, and it's like, as long as my arm. Yeah. And I cannot believe I'm still alive today, because I would mix and match uppers, downers, alcohol, just literally everything. Yeah.
So, and one thing I want to touch on, because you made sure that you wanted to talk about some traumas that happened in your adult life. So before we get to because I'm assuming those happened before your first treatment stay.
Yeah, it happened in college. Yeah.
So so what was that?
So I actually haven't spoke about these two. Well, I did in my I don't even know if I talked about them in inpatient. I talked about them in outpatient. So 2 incidences happened when I was in college. One of them, I was at a Spanish party for our Spanish class, and it was at this one of the guys that went to class there, he was an older gentleman, and he, I guess he was kind of like somebody's manservant to Jackie Onassis's cousin. He lived in this super, super nice house in Ashland, Oregon. And so we're partying at this house and drinking sangria and taking shots of tequila and all this stuff. And then I wake up after, I don't know how I blacked out, obviously. So I wake up with a gentleman on top of me. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's just like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, no, like, what's going on? And so I ended up, like, I had to, like, grab him and be like, okay, this needs to stop, like, right now. And he did. And the next morning, we actually ended up, like, because he had to take me home. And we went on this walk and we kind of talked a little bit, and he actually told me, he's like, wow, I'm really surprised that you're like so okay with like what happened. And I'm like, and that should have been like, okay, yes, because I was passed out, so I didn't know like what led up to it. And the other incident that happened, I'd been up for a couple days doing meth, and went to this Christmas party, and I got wasted, and evidently some gentleman took me home, and the same thing happened. And for years, because I didn't know like what led up to those incidences, because I'm always at fault. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just the way it's always been. And so I really like questioned my sexuality. And not only that, but like trust issues with men. Like, why is this individual trying to be my friend? And so that led to some very interesting situations. I had a very unhealthy relationship with a gentleman when I lived in Texas. And he like showered me with gifts and bought me all these things. And it was awesome because I'm getting all this affection and attention, and I don't have to have sex with him. But I'm like, yeah, it was, and I definitely was not completely innocent in that whole situation with this guy. I took advantage of his kindness, however maybe misguided it was. I don't know. It was just like those incidences in college. And then after that, I started using like pretty heavy, even heavier. And it was so what had happened, like what had made me realize that I was not a willing participant in the incident or the incidences was I was living in Dallas, and I was driving home from work, and I was there's this app on my phone that it's like a news app from back home in Oregon, and the gentleman that owned the house and a school bus driver, the gentleman that owned the house, where the party was at, he and the school bus driver got caught up in this child porn sting. And one moment, please.
You're good, dude. Take your time.
All of these emotions just like hit me.
Yeah.
And I was pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, to say the least, I was pissed. And so I pulled over because I was a complete mess, and I called my mom and talked to her, and I was a mess, and I was pissed, and I guess the thing that I was pissed about the most was like the innocence that they took.
Yeah. I'm blown away by your courage in sharing that with us, man. It is hard enough for.
I got you, bro.
Thank you.
It's hard enough for.
That's my bloody nose tissue.
Nice.
I'll lighten the mood.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love you, brother.
It blows me away that, I mean, that's such an incredible hard thing to share with loved ones, and the fact that you're sharing that here with us, because there might be somebody out there that's listening that's where you were, and they haven't had that moment where they knew that they weren't at fault, that they experienced something that wasn't okay, and they were not able to work through it because they haven't told anybody yet. So, this is one time okay with triggering somebody, right? Is hopefully it triggers them to tell somebody and to get help and to do and work through those things. And it sounds like you've done some work on that, right? You're probably continuing to do work on it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I probably need to. I need to do more work on. I mean, I have since, I guess, forgiven them. Because you just kind of have to. You can't stay pissed. It's not okay. But you just, you can't. Just, those resentments. Like you can resent somebody for digging your car and, not having insurance, or you can resent somebody for, sexually abusing you. But at some point you just have to, you have to let it go.
Yeah. Didn't affect how being a badass.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right.
So that moment where you pulled over, called mom, that was in Dallas.
I was in Dallas. Yeah.
Use was pretty.
Oh,
heavy.
I was high as shit. Yeah.
So was this the event that pushed you kind of over into wanting to get help the first time?
I can't remember how long after that. It probably took another couple of years to get into treatment after that. But so what led to my first treatment center? Friends finally talked me into going to see a counselor.
Okay.
Because I'm batshit crazy, and depressed all the time and anxious all the time and all that. And it's not because of my drug use. It's
no. How could it be?
No. So I saw a counselor, and she prescribes me Adderall. She prescribes me Xanax.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
All the good stuff. She prescribes me a speedball. And then I got something for depressions, something for. I mean, all told, it was adult ADD, anxiety, depression, bipolar, everything. And I'm like, okay, sweet, that explains a lot. And I can't remember if I do believe I was at least candid with her as far as my past use, but not the blow that I'm doing, almost every day.
In the parking lot before you.
Yeah. So, so those, getting prescribed that was awesome. I'm taking the Adderall and I feel great, and and I'm taking the Xanax and I feel great. But then I would go on my medication, and then I'd go off my medication. I'd go on my medication, I'd go off my medication, and in between, I'm partying every weekend. I'm doing. Sorry about the tap there. I'm going out and doing ecstasy and staying up all hours of night, and drinking and doing my opiates, and I hospitalized myself a couple times because of suicidal ideations and severe panic attacks, and so it's just snowballing and like I said, the opiates, I'm actually, and I actually said this today in a meeting, I'm grateful for opiates, because those are what brought me completely down to my knees.
Yep.
And, without opiates, I might still be going.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't look this good. So. But yeah, so I started taking just a handful at a time, and like what the opiates did is they got me high. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't, with a lot of times when people take opiates, they just, get tired and go to sleep. Like my mother, bless her heart, she's like, and so yeah, I would get high and I'd stay up for days, especially the combination of opiates and Adderall. But yeah, I would stay up for days, and I would be able to go outside of the house. I'd be able to function like a normal human being, obviously until I was not. But yeah, I'd take it, by a handful, wait a couple weeks, but by another handful. And I actually had a conversation with a buddy of mine. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to get addicted to this. I know how addictive they are. So I
said the same thing. I was like, I'm not going to do ecstasy because I'm going to get addicted to that. Yeah. I'm just going to stick to snorting Oxycontin.
There you go. Yeah. So then it became every day. Yeah. And then if I couldn't get them, I would have to get wasted because I thought I was having panic attacks, but I was going through withdrawals. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
Risky little withdrawals.
It's horrible. And then having to call the 911 because I want to jump off my balcony. And I actually. One of the times I got hospitalized, I drove out to Austin because I'm crazy, and I got a hotel room. One of my girlfriends from Austin came and hung out with me for a little bit, and then I was going to drive all the way to Austin, but I had like my first really severe panic attack. And like my extremities were going numb. I was shaking uncontrollably. So I, called 911. They came and got me, and they're like, "Yeah, just having a panic attack." I'm like, "Cool." So, and it was because, and I'm sure I was going through withdrawals because I didn't have any alcohol. I didn't have any pills, and so I end up coming back, and my ex-girlfriend is going to take care of me. And all we did was end up getting drunk and fighting because she's an addict too, and she's sober now. She's awesome. So we're outside, not yelling and screaming because I'm not a yeller and a screamer, but we're in an argument, and I'm like, fuck it. So she lives right next to this major thoroughfare, McKinney Avenue in Dallas, and it's on the weekend, and I throw myself out into traffic. And there just happened to be a break in traffic.
Of course there was. So I'm laying there. I'm like, sweet. Stupid. This guy gets out of his car. He's like, "You're okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay. You were supposed to run me over."
Fucked up my plans.
Yeah, and I'm like, got like shorts on, and that's it. I'm shirtless and barefoot, and he's like, "Do I need to call the cops?" I'm like, "No, you're good." So I got up, and anyway, so yeah, not only was I trying to kill myself through usage, then it ramped up to just screw it, Yep. I'm done. And fast forward, I don't know, maybe a couple months, and I'm drinking probably a half gallon of vodka a day at least, and I'd been doing this for a while, taking anything I could, drinking mouthwash, drinking, rubbing alcohol, and then I would yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, that's some burly boy shit. Yeah, like I tried it, and it burned, and I puked it up, and I'm like,
I've seen somebody do that with a hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if it got me drunk. It was enough for me to pass out.
Fair enough.
And
that was the goal, right?
That was the goal. And so, yeah, then my buddies were like, "So we think it would probably be a good idea if you head home and figure some shit out." And I'm like, "I think that is a great idea."
I'm sure it was a very civil conversation, just like that.
But yeah, it was. I'm just like, yeah, I think this is a really good idea. So like I said early, it takes a village. They called up my mother, called up my sister. They purchased me a plane ticket. Nice. Stored my stuff. And I moved. I headed back to Portland. Stayed with my sister, and I got. I had like a handful of pills to get me through until detox. So I went through those and just got wasted, and which was to be in that. I was unkempt. I was unshaven. It was one of the, list the 5 things would describe your usage. It's pathetic. And I'm not judging anybody but myself. I was pathetic, and dirty, and just to expose my friends and family to all that, because for the most part, my heavy usage was away from them.
Yeah.
So I got into detox, the Hooper Detox Center in Portland, Oregon. It's a very interesting facility. It's right down close to Burnside. I don't know if you know anything about Portland, but Burnside's pretty gnarly, pretty gnarly area. And
I believe it.
Yeah, I was there with the people that just come right off the street.
Yep.
And met some interesting characters, and they're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people. I'm an addict. They're an addict. I just didn't happen to. I had more family support. Maybe I could have easily ended up there.
Mm-hmm. So before you got to North Point, how many detox treatments, outpatients, inpatients, had you gone through?
I'd gone through. So after detox, I got into the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center in Portland.
Okay.
Went through 4 months of that. Found some fentanyl patches in some of the donations, and my job there, I was dispatch, and they trusted me a lot. I was on the phones. I was coordinating pickups, talking to the people donating stuff, and they had this garbage can in the back that had needles and just prescription medication, just stuff that people would find and give to the supervisors. And somebody found a box of fentanyl patches, and they were sitting right on top of that garbage can, and they stayed there for like a week. And finally, I'm like, okay, fine. So, yeah. Well, no, I had to put them up here to hide it from, So got out of a couple days later. They're like, "Oh, Tucker, you haven't taken a UA for a while. You want to see us after work?" I'm like, "Cool." Fuck. So called up my sister, and I was like, "I'm done with treatment," so took the bus out there, made some phone calls, got set up in an interview here in Edmonds, the St. Edmunds Oxford House. Got an interview, got in.
Yeah.
So I stayed sober for a year. Sober, I didn't work a program, didn't do any 12 steps, didn't do any outpatient. The day I moved out, I started drinking because I guess I didn't think I was an alcoholic. And I was just a drug addict, but I'm a raging alcoholic. Within like 2 or 3 months, I was drinking from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. I drank to pass out. I was drunk at work, all that. Then I got into treatment in Utah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got to treatment in Utah. Don't remember the dates, but it doesn't really matter. Got into treatment in Utah. Went through 28 days. Got out, moved in with my stepsister, who had actually gotten me a scholarship out there. She's a chemical dependency counselor.
I remember that. You told me about that.
Yeah, and she's the reason why I made it to North Point too. So you guys can thank her later.
We'll do that.
Yeah. So went through the 20 days, moved in with her again. No program, no 12 steps, nothing.
Out of Utah.
After Utah, moved in with my stepsister, and then within, I'd say, probably 4 months,
drinking again.
The same thing.
Yeah,
the very same thing. And it started off with opiates, and muscle relaxers and Xanax and stuff, and then drinking again. And I'd called out of work a couple days. She came down to do a welfare check on me, and she's like, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "Not good." She's like, "You want to go back to treatment?" Yes. So within 24 hours, I'm on a plane, headed out to North Point.
And so, what made you get it that time?
Hold on. I love his picture, by the way. Your intake picture was fantastic.
I think didn't I print it off for you?
No.
No?
I wanted you to.
He's like,
I was,
super smiley.
Super smiley, and his like hair is like all like hung over here.
So yes, you are right. Yeah. And I was just, I love you all.
So let's just run through. I mean, what was different about North Point, or what was different about you at the time when you were at North Point, and then what things kept you sober once you got back here, and what's life like now?
So the difference was Jon.
Oh, yes.
God damn it.
Damn it. Yes. My man.
I hate you both.
Eat that, Cooper.
You can pay me later.
Oh, I got you, brother.
Or just give me a hug. One of the two. Yeah.
Give me a big old hug.
Cool. Give me a hug. So I just like when like through high school and everything, I was a good student. I was a good kid. That's the way I was in all my treatment centers. Obviously besides the
he was that guy.
fentanyl incident.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was I
Went to every group.
I was helpful. I went to every group. I didn't make waves. I was as nice and polite to everybody as I could possibly be.
Maybe a little wave.
Maybe a little wave. Oh well, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, maybe a little wave.
Maybe a little wave.
So I'm like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my counselor, Dan, was actually my counselor, who's now back at North Point.
Yes, he is.
I'll give him a
Dan Arnold.
what's up,
Good
DA.
shout out there.
I've never called him DA before.
I call him Darnold.
Darnold. Nice, like Sam Darnold. Yeah. So anyway, he gave me the option to do an assignment early, and obviously through our assessment, I'm like the king of procrastination, and so he gave me that option. That day arrived, and he's like, "Hey, do you have that assignment?" I'm like, "I haven't even started it yet. I'll get it in on time." And he just like gave me this look, and I'm like, "Oh fuck." I do not like to disappoint people. Do not like to disappoint people. Like everybody be happy and love everybody. Love everybody.
Love me. Love me.
Yes. So, yeah, I was in trouble, right? And so he's like, "All right." So like the next day or the day after, we had our one-on-one. And I sit down. He's like, "All right." He may or may not have used expletives. Expletive? Yeah. Anyway. Expletives. Thank you. Expletives. May or may not have used them. And
he cussed your ass out.
Yeah. He did. And I needed it. Like that is what I needed.
I love
just
Dan.
call it how it is.
Yeah. That is what I needed. And he's like, "You say you're gonna do it different this time. What are you doing different?" I'm like, "Nothing." So
he called you on your bullshit.
He called me on my bullshit, and it he did it at a time when I needed it, and it was like the right time. And so from then on out, I turned in everything on time or early. I shared in group. I shared in meetings. I took notes. everything I could do to just be like, okay, I am doing everything. If Dan happens to walk in and see me, I'm taking notes. But yeah, and I woke up early in the morning with all the other, like the old guys drinking coffee. I woke up early so I could get up early, so I could take a shower, so I could be on time for everything and not have to rush around. And then when I got out of treatment, I did the Vivitrol. I got into outpatient. I did move in with my stepsis for a little bit, but there was no alcohol in the house. And then I got into sober living. I got a sponsor. I worked the steps, which I was totally, I was very anti-AA. Anti 12-step.
You're good.
I was very anti 12-step. But then I'm like, I'm done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do whatever you tell me to do. So, yeah, I did all of that. And actually, the day of my assessment for outpatient, I had a tooth infection the last, week of inpatient. And my face swelled up, and it was throbbing, and it hurt. I was in pain. I think I missed one group because of it, but I was in pain. And that continued when I got there, a couple days later. I had my assessment. I was puking. I was in so much pain. But I made it to that assessment. Yeah, I made it. And I was just like, if you're going to make it to an assessment and you're puking in the parking lot because I'm hurting so bad. And, but I was just like, I'm done. I'm done.
This is what's important. I like it.
We were actually talking about you when we were driving in yesterday because Cooper was telling me 2 hours to drive to your outpatient.
Yeah, remember when you were telling me about you had your outpatient it was in the middle of downtown.
Oh, yeah.
And you got off work at 5 or no, it was treatment at 6, and you drove in standstill traffic for 2 hours for for 5 days a week. For
you would sit at a light, 20 car lengths back or whatever, and light would change to green, and you just still sitting there, and it changes to red, and you'd move a couple cars every 5, 10, 15 minutes. And that's what I had to do every day. And yeah, it sucked, but
what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
You're gonna fucking do it.
What are you gonna do?
We're gonna talk about it.
Both of you.
What's talking about?
Yeah.
All right, man.
Well, he's getting silly because he's tired, and I'm just silly.
He's delusional.
Yes.
He's about to be scared shitless.
I know. Yeah. Jesus, and not very long. All right, man. So, anything that you want to say? First of all, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be here. Thanks for being, I think, more vulnerable than anybody's been, and that really shows bravery and courage.
That was awesome.
Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm excited to appreciate who you are now more, and I definitely do. What do you want to say to anybody out there that might be listening, that might be struggling, might have a family member that's struggling, might be thinking about getting into addiction treatment, but is mostly just what do you want to say? What do you want to leave us with?
Man, I don't know. Oh yeah, actually I do know. I talked about it earlier today. A lot of us addicts, alcoholics, do not believe that we deserve happiness, that we deserve sobriety. And we do. We do. We deserve it. We're good enough. We're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like us.
God, I love you, Tucker. John, what do you want to say?
Well, since Tucker almost made me cry 4 times during this episode.
Same. I'm like, is there...
oh, shit. No, seeing Tucker now with the alumni program here does even better than Cooper does in Boise. Just play it.
I'll pay you later.
Pay you later. Yeah. No, but when Tucker came in, I was kind of on my way out of North Point to go to Ashwood. And I kind of remember him being super like not following recommendations. Like Tucker was like that social butterfly that like wanted to talk to everybody and stuff and not do his assignments. And definitely like watching, like it clicked one day. And I remember the next day I did like roadmap to recovery, and like Tucker was sitting in the front row, like with his binder out, and like
front row,
just scribbling notes down. And
front
I was
left,
like,
right?
Yeah,
front left.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? But you know, seeing him, and I think you said something about like wanting to come back and work.
Oh yeah,
like while you were there, and we hear that all the time. So many patients are like, "Yeah, I'm going to come back and do this," and then like, lo and behold, like Cooper calls me up and he's like, "Yeah, Tucker." He's like, "You know Tucker?" I'm like, "Who's Tucker? Who's Tucker?" And he like shows me. I'm like,
big motherfucker.
I'm like, Tucker, yes. And so like, but it's really cool to see his journey and to see how he's grown and how he's really taken hold of the company. And just does an amazing job with the patients and the alumni program. And he's done such wonders with building it here in Washington. He's going to make your job easy, FYI.
That is my plan.
I agree.
That's what you should do. But yeah, I'm just super psyched. You know, I was really happy when Tucker got hired. He came to an alumni, and I think I got choked up in the alumni, just like kind of talking like Tucker was here, and it was kind of cool to see him back in a different side of things. So I love seeing former patients come back and work and come back and be clean and be happy. And then like you hear a fucking story and you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
But yeah, Tucker's a fucking rock star.
I agree.
I don't want to go to this thing tonight. No, listen to me. Listen to me. Hold on.
You don't have to go.
But I have to.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm going to record you.
Okay.
Because I know how much you hate scary things.
Yeah, I don't.
And
like
spicy things. And emotional things.
I know. All of it.
No,
So-
Tucker, I love you, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
love you too,
I do want to say that the growth that you've had in your 3 years of sobriety, and then even in just the 6 months that you've been working here, watching you're just continuing to grow, man. And it's a privilege to be a part of. So thanks for joining us, not only here but at North Point, and happy to call you my friend, man.
Thank you. You too.
I mean, professional boundaries. Just saying.
Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Share. Tell one person about us that you think would get value from this episode. Please, please, please. It helps us get Tucker's story out there and help as many people as possible. Guys, this has been No Way But North. We're talking about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. Thanks.
Peace.
If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call 208-999-4064. The views and opinions expressed in No Way But North do not reflect those of North Point Recovery or any other institution or organization.